We are deploying full-spectrum advanced technologies, millisecond cognitive compute, kinetic robotics, and quantum processing directly into a fragile physical world. For the last century, global markets operated on an enterprise-out extraction model. Centralized corporate silos built tools in isolation, pushed them out blindly, and relied on probabilistic inference to guess what the market actually needed. This illustrates the terminal bug. When the system forces rigid, one-dimensional machine logic into the 10-dimensional complexity of a biological ecosystem, the math fails. The network hallucinates demand and overloads power grids, triggering macro-systemic collapse because the machine cannot sense the planet's thermodynamic limits. Pushing more technology through this broken pipe will not advance civilization into the intelligence era. To survive this threshold, the gravity of the global economy must reverse. We transition to a system of prosperity co-creation. Here, the economy operates on strict demand-out physics and maintains total thermodynamic equilibrium. To achieve this, the computational anchor must move. We stop relying on the centralized cloud and shift processing power directly to the localized geohash. Processing data at the local edge is an absolute prerequisite. It is the only way to preserve the uncompressed, raw complexity of living biological systems without collapsing them into statistical averages. The global objective is no longer pushing products. It becomes the continuous thermodynamic resolution of unmet demand, calculated and solved exactly where that demand originates. Unlike the 20th century machine network that sat in a static, lifeless idle, this new architecture operates as a continuously streaming kinetic flow. It hovers in a state of frictionless readiness. Prosperity is never pushed from a corporate center. It acts as a kinetic force, dynamically pulled toward a thermodynamic vacuum by the local communities that need it. Moving to a streaming economy requires both corporate gatekeepers and sovereign states to execute a complete 7-layer kinetic decoupling. Severing algorithmic IP from physical assets creates a one-dimensional, glowing kinetic stream. Below it sits the heavy 7-layer physical substrate historically hoarded by gatekeepers. The foundational 3 strata are capital, compute, and logistics. The remaining 4 are energy, human bandwidth, ecology, and defensive capital. By separating these domains, the algorithmic IP is stripped of its ability to extract autonomously. It must wait for the localized edge to demand its use. Intellectual property ceases to be a static, hoarded asset, requiring massive customer acquisition costs. It becomes a frictionless capability, waiting to be pulled into action by the edge. Because we are deploying this into a living, complex environment, a brownfield, streaming IP cannot just land in a vacuum. Every action requires strict mathematical authorization. Tetrad coherence is a 4-part cryptographic gateway for localized demand. Condition 1, cyber, verifies algorithmic function. Condition 2, physical, ensures ecological capacity. Condition 3, sovereign, demands strict legal compliance. Finally, Condition 4, social, requires the action be willed into existence by community consensus. If, and only if, all 4 conditions align simultaneously, the demand is cleared. This structural requirement mathematically prevents systemic harm and blocks unapproved corporate extraction. If a localized node is actively operating but approaches its maximum ecological or thermal limit, the system needs an immediate biological failsafe. The sovereign veto is our biological failsafe. When a watershed reaches its thermal limit, the community asserts this veto. Rather than killing demand, it acts as a thermodynamic rotor, instantly redirecting the kinetic flow toward an alternative node with verified regenerative capacity. Governing this instant routing logic across the planetary mesh is the Prosperity Co-Creation Corporation, or P3C. It acts as the supranational thermodynamic bank. P3C governs using the universal coherence asset. After a reroute, P3C equitably expands the yield field. Half the yield goes to the originating community for their intent, while the second half routes to the alternative physical node that supplied the safe thermodynamic capacity. By sharing the yield between the authors of the intent and the providers of the capacity, the system removes the free rider fallacy. It structurally aligns the entire planetary network to reward human imagination while protecting the local ecology. Processing 10-dimensional biological reality and quantum mapping at a planetary scale requires an absolute structural geometry to maintain order. This geometry relies on two irreducible scientific disciplines. The first is ontological systems engineering, the science that defines the sovereign boundary. Ontological systems engineering builds the exact spatial constraints necessary to contain the one-dimensional machine logic. It acts as the barrier that protects the living biological system from extraction. The second discipline is macrosystemic prosperity, which operates as the science of the kinetic flow. While the boundaries hold the structure, macrosystemic prosperity measures, values, and safely routes the exponential technological capability directly through those boundaries. In this paired architecture, the machine network is strictly limited by design. It handles the frictionless routing, but it never assumes control of the living environment. Because the machine is blind to thermodynamic consequence, we explicitly reject the pursuit of artificial general intelligence as a human replacement. The system mandates strict intelligence augmentation. Advanced technology is relegated to a support role. It becomes a frictionless, high-speed intelligence augmentation exoskeleton, designed entirely to enable the local human edge. Operating in systems time, this exoskeleton perfectly absorbs the violent mechanical friction of the 7-layer physical substrate, so that the biological human does not have to. By guaranteeing prosperity exactly at the point of origin, the system redirects human cognitive bandwidth away from the 20th century scarcity trap. Freed from mechanical labor, the 10-dimensional biological human steps into their intended role as the exclusive engine of sense-making and counterfactual imagination. This reclaimed bandwidth provides the cognitive foundation to address challenges that were previously throttled by scarcity, repairing planetary watersheds, extending biological longevity, and establishing the foundational logistics required for extraterrestrial exploration.